Welcome to EPG Pathshala Architecture lecture series for MArch students. Today's module is on Urban Design Studio and the paper is Reading the Urban Fabric. So, the main objectives is identifying the urban fabric, what are the typologies of urban fabric, what are the ways of reading urban fabric, and what are the different ways of actually interpreting the urban fabric. So, what is urban fabric? Everyone, all of us know that when you see a city, you see mostly the roads as well as the buildings. And when you say as a fabric, when you even touch a cloth, you see a pattern. You try to find some longitudinal lines and you also try to find some latitudinal lines in any fabric. So, the same also applies for an urban fabric. In an urban fabric, it is basically you think about only the physical aspects of urbanism. The physical aspects are nothing but the building types, the thoroughfares, the open spaces, the frontages and also the streetscapes. These are all the physical aspects of a city. And in an urban fabric, the main idea of an urban fabric is only to look into these physical aspects, that are the streets, the buildings, the blocks, the frontages and all the open spaces, but basically you are going to exclude the social and cultural aspects of a town or a city. So, urban fabric, as the name says, fabric means only the longitudinal lines, the horizontal lines and the spaces, that is nothing but the blocks. That is what is called as an urban fabric. So, urban fabric is basically nothing but it talks about the form of a town or a city. How is a city formed? What is the form of the city? The urban pattern of a city is said to be as urban fabric. Now, what are the main patterns of the blocks in the streets? Urban fabric is nothing but, as you know, in a city you have basically the blocks, that is the buildings, and you have the streets. Streets are nothing but the open spaces. So, an urban fabric is basically the combined pattern. When you look at the streets and the buildings in a combined form, that is called as, that makes the urban fabric. The combined pattern of the blocks and the streets, basically taking into consideration what is the character of the building. The character of the building, many buildings, each building has its own character, its own style and its own dimensions and principles. So, urban fabric is a combined pattern of the blocks and the streets, taking into consideration mainly the character of the streets and then the building heights and the building sizes. If you see in this picture, you can actually find the pattern of both the streets as well as the blocks. So, you can have the building character if you look into this picture, wherein you can actually feel the character of the blocks, of the street blocks. The character of the street blocks is very evident, and also there are the building heights and the building sizes. So, a street urban fabric or the city urban fabric is basically formed by both the streets, that is the blocks, and also the open spaces which compass of the thoroughfares, the open frontages, the open spaces, the parks, the greenery, everything. Then when you have an urban fabric, when you know that there is a city plan, but how do you actually identify the urban fabric? So, for this there is a very traditional method which is called as the figure ground analysis. A figure ground analysis is basically trying to identify the urban fabric by in which you have the building as an object for you and the surroundings as an open space or as a background for you. The open spaces act as a background and all the buildings tend to be as an object for you. That is called as a figure ground analysis. Basically, in a figure ground analysis, the figure is nothing but the built up space, that those are nothing but the buildings or the objects, and the ground is nothing but the open spaces. After the building has been built on the city, whatever the space is surrounding it, that is called as the ground, and which is also regarded as the background. So, out of this figure ground analysis, if you want to put it in a two-dimensional plan, you call it as a figure ground plan. So, in the figure ground plan, it is nothing but the plan of the urban space, wherein you try to highlight the relationship between the built spaces and the unbuilt spaces. That is why you do a 2D plan. A two-dimensional plan is basically trying to highlight what is the interrelationship between the built spaces, that is the buildings, that is the objects, and the unbuilt spaces, which is nothing but the open spaces which act as the background of the city, that is the urban fabric. So, you use a figure ground analysis and a figure ground map to actually identify the urban fabric of a town or a city. And these studies which are related to urban fabric, they actually tend to highlight how the blocks and the streets in a very interrelated manner, they tend to create a movement, and they also tend to enable an access. So, basically all the studies which are related to urban fabric, they actually highlight how the movement in the city happens and how the urban spaces, different types of urban spaces are actually interrelated by the arrangement of these streets and the open spaces, which are nothing but the blocks also. So, if you see this map, this is a map which is a figure ground plan of a very old city which is in Barcelona. So, it is very evident that you have, it is basically like a white and a black map. The figure ground map is also referred to as a black and white map, wherein the black is nothing but the built areas and the white is nothing but the open spaces. So, even in this map, if you see, all the black spaces are regarded as the blocks or the objects, and the white spaces which you can see, they are regarded as the streets, and there are other white spaces which are not only the streets, which cannot be regarded as streets, but they are referred to as open spaces, which can be also a public square or which can also be a city center. So, a figure ground plan basically tries to give you an identity of the urban fabric of the city, that is how the blocks are placed and how the streets are placed. This is nothing but a building, the blacks, and which is called as, which is referred to as an object as we mentioned earlier, and the white spaces is nothing but the background. If you take the entire white as a background and if you keep spacing the buildings, how it appears, this is nothing but a figure ground map, and it is done through a figure ground analysis. Now, having understood what an urban fabric is, the main components of urban fabric, in an urban fabric, what are the main components that you will study about, and what are the main components that you need to be identified. So, the main components in an urban fabric is related to the plots, what are the streets and the open spaces. So, a city or a town is mainly composed and is mainly organized of streets, of open spaces and of the plots. This actually makes up an urban fabric, and this urban fabric is also referred to as a solid and void. As you have seen earlier, the solid is nothing but the black objects and the void is nothing but the open spaces. So, figure ground map is also referred to as a black and white map. It is also referred to as solid and void. So, these maps actually tell us what is the urban density of the city, what is the built up area, what is the unbuilt area. So, these are the different types of analysis we try to arrive by doing an urban fabric map, which is nothing but a figure ground map. We get the first hand information of what the city is, what is the density of the city, what is the character of the city, how is the city mapped over a period of time. So, urban fabric is a very, very important aspect while in the study of urban design, and especially in urban design studios where you look into actually developing a city, looking into the future growth of the city. So, actually to understand the future growth of a city, you need to understand what is actually there, what was actually there. That when you know the past, then only there is an ability to go for the future. So, this is a figure ground plan and this is the figure ground map. Now, when you identify the urban fabric, in sometimes you see that the solid is more or it is greater. When I say solid, it is nothing but the black area. The black area is greater in certain maps when compared to the white spaces. So, if the building mass is greater than the open spaces, then it is actually referred to that there are less of streets, and the streets are very much narrower, thereby making it as very less open spaces, and thereby it shows that there is a lot of mixed use development and it fosters a lot of pedestrian activity. So, when you just imagine in the previous slides, when you see that the building over here, if there is a lot of black area and if there is a very less white area, it means that there is a lot of pedestrian activity which is happening in the city. And in the other case, if the open space is more and if the built spaces is very less, then it gives us a feeling that the city is not much well developed, and it also gives us a feeling about a lot of space for surface parking, and it also gives a feeling of disconnectivity. When you have more of buildings and less of open spaces, it creates a feeling of secureness. It creates a feeling of connectivity. But if it is very shattered, if the open spaces are too much, and if the building is if the buildings are very far away and there is a lot of open spaces between two buildings, then it does not give the feeling of connectivity, and it feels that you are disconnected from the urban fabric. So, identifying the urban fabric, especially if the figure ground map, tells us a lot about the city. How is though it does not directly tell us about the social and cultural aspects of the form of the city, but it is a way of actually interpreting how the social and cultural aspects of the city were taken part by looking into the formation of the voids and the buildings. By looking into the formation of the solids and the voids, the capacity of its spread out of the solid and the voids, we tend to know how the activities used to take place in the city. How is the connectivity within the people? How is the pedestrian activity within the people? Then when you go further into identifying about the urban fabric, the morphology is nothing but the urban form of the city. When you see, it has considerably changed over a period of time. Like when you go before, in the earlier ages, during the 1920s or even 1901s, during those periods the cities were very dense. Where they were very dense because of the feeling of connections. They were very closely packed, and very near to each other. But later on, when the car actually started to come into it, the city started to become fragmented, they started to become diffused, and then eventually what happened is they started to allocate a lot of spaces for roads and for parking spaces. So there was a shift in the fragmentation. The figure ground map during in the 1901s, in the past, it started to get fragmented, and eventually in the 21st century, from formerly dense solids, it started to become very shattered. In the 21st century, the increasingly fragmented urban condition has proven to be problematic, because earlier when it was very close to each other, the blocks, when they were very closely packed, there was a lot of connectivity. But as the things, as cars started to prevail, the people started to move to the suburbs because of the cars. They started to move away to the suburbs, and slowly what happened to the urban fabric was the city started to spread away, and a lot of then whatever was actually considered dense now started to get fragmented. So eventually there was a need for the new urbanism movement to step into and come up with infill constructions. So if you look into the urban fabric, we can actually see how the urban fabric has changed from a period of time, and what were the causes that has actually led to this change. So in earlier ages, the city was very closely packed, and then later on, because of the car movement or because of Fordism, when the Ford cars actually started, people started to go to the suburban areas, and slowly the city started to get fragmented and move to the periphery of the city, and thereby there was a need again for the new urbanism movement to get into place, and so that you can return the cities back to a denser solid form. So I will just show the other few slides will be basically about the figure ground plan or the white and black plan, which is also called as the solid and void plans of different cities. And if you can just go through them, you will be able to find a pattern. So this is the New York plan. It is a figure ground plan, which is also called as a city map, a figure ground map or a solid and void black and white map of the New York City. So as you just go through these slides, you will be able to find the way or a pattern how the black and the white are actually laid. So this is a New York plan. You can see that you can actually find nice black rectangular blocks all over with nice straight streets which are running perpendicular and parallel. So this is a New York City figure ground map, and this is a Toronto map. In Toronto, though it is not similar and to the New York map, but here also you can find pretty good blocks which are in rectangular shape, and you can actually find streets which are running straight perpendicular to another street. And then if you go into San Francisco, this is also another figure ground plan which is very well laid out, though they are also running very perpendicular to each other. There are also some lines which are running as a tangent, and which are angled, but this is also one way of seeing a urban fabric map. This is the plan of a San Francisco. Here also the blocks are very predominant and they have followed a shape towards it. The size of the blocks is very linear and it is very in a uniformatic way. And this is Mississauga. Even here also, when compared to the other two cities, New York and Toronto, you can actually find very large huge blocks of black huge blocks, and then very limited streets or open spaces. And then when you come to Barcelona, now you can actually see a transition or a change between these two figure ground maps. In Barcelona, what earlier to what you have seen in New York and Toronto, it is very different. It is not very much planned, it looks a little bit chaotic, or it looks a little bit organic, like you can say it has been grown over a period of time. And here what happens is the blocks are very small. The street patterns are very you can find a very many street patterns, and the urban fabric, the blocks are also huge. So this is one way of this is another one map of Barcelona, wherein you find very small blocks. And then this is again Copenhagen, which is also similar to Barcelona. You do not find it to be very symmetrical, very planned, but it is a little bit chaotic, unplanned growth you can say. And this is how the map of Copenhagen is. Here and there you have some large blocks, and some of here you can see very small blocks, and even the streets are also pretty wide and some are very narrow. So it is not very symmetrical like how you have seen in New York and Toronto. The same in London also. You find there are many different types of street block sizes basically, and also the street sizes are very different, and that it is not symmetrical, it is not planned. So these are some things that you can see when you look into the maps or the figure ground maps of different countries. And same as in Paris also, you can find some perpendicular, you can find some angled streets, and even the block sizes are very random. There isn't like a proper rectangular block, a proper square block, but they are different sizes. So in Paris you can find different sizes of blocks, different sizes of streets. The same in Rome also. Even in Rome also, when compared to Barcelona, Copenhagen and Paris, you see in Rome the street sizes are very narrow, and also the block sizes also are very small. Of course, some are also pretty large. Even in Rome also, though the street sizes are very chaotic and it is unplanned, still there are different block sizes and different street sizes. So now looking into all these different types of urban fabrics, if you look there, we can actually come up with two different types of urban fabrics. All these maps can be actually typologized into two different types, which is called as a coarse grain, and the other one is the fine grain. So if you look into coarse grain, so we can say New York, this is a New York figure ground plan, and then we can also say San Francisco, and obviously Toronto. So these three, if you look into them, you can find some types of similarities in these three figure ground plans. So the coarse grain, what are the main characteristics of this coarse grain is, it is very rough and it is very large scale. The blocks are very large scale. This is the main characteristic of the urban fabric of a coarse grain city. So coarse grain urban fabric is basically, it is long and it is very large scale, and you do not tend to feel comfortable in such an urban fabric, in a coarse grain urban fabric. Because why? Because is large and long blocks, they tend to actually isolate the users of one street to another street. If the streets were placed very close by, then there would be a feeling of closeness rather than isolation. And therefore actually Jane Jacobs, if one remembers, the Jane Jacobs has written actually a wonderful book on the death and life of great American cities. So in this book, she actually very well describes how the New York City has changed over a period of time, and how many socio-cultural aspects have changed because the city urban fabric has changed. If you go back and read Jane Jacobs' book. So similarly in New York, earlier when it was a fine grained city, but then later on it has changed into a coarse grained city, and then after it has changed into a coarse grained city, because of the plannedness, because of the planned environment, it led to an isolation between the users. The same also happens in San Francisco. Even in San Francisco, if you see, the streets are straight and the block sizes are pretty huge. So this reduces an isolation, it reduces the feeling of closeness between one another, and it also lessens the street interactions, which are actually very much seen. And if you take about the fine grained cities, which is actually Barcelona, you can also have Copenhagen, you can have London, you can have Rome. So all these cities, what happens is, in a fine grained city, the blocks are very closely packed. When the blocks are very small, it creates a very closeness, and it has grown over of time. It is very organic in nature. Organic in sense, it is not planned, it has just evolved over a period of time. So just as the time goes, and because there was a need for the people to actually be placed in a city, the city started to widen, and then you get a fine grain. So fine grain city is very dynamic, and it always keeps changing based on the needs of the city. So these are the main characteristics of a small grain or a fine grain city. And also in a fine grain, what you can see is from London or from Rome or from Barcelona or from Copenhagen figure ground maps, is that there are very narrow frontages. In a fine grain city, you have the frontages are very narrow, and therefore this increases a lot of safety and a lot of interaction among the users. And also it evolves over a time. This leads to a dynamic and a changing city. It always keeps changing based on the needs of the people. So basically, by identifying the urban fabric, we get to know that there are two typologies of urban fabric. One is a fine grain and the other one is a coarse grain. So coarse grain, basically, as you have seen earlier, it leads to large blocks, and in fine grains it is mostly small blocks. And as it is small blocks, you have more of connectivity, more of pedestrian activity, more of closeness, unlike in the large blocks where you have a lot of isolation between people, more of car using will happen, and this leads also to a lot of vehicular and unsafety precautions need to be taken. So just going through some examples over a period of time starting from 3500 AD to 500 AD, we will look into an ancient city which is in Mesopotamia. In this city, what happens is, we will look how the city is both a planned city as well as an unplanned city. So now, having understood about the typologies of urban fabric, we will see how those typologies of urban fabric have changed over a period of time. So now in this city, which is Mesopotamia, if you look at the city, the center of the city, it seems to be very planned. And as you move away from the city, as you go away from the city, you tend to see it as an unplanned city. So ancient cities, basically they exhibited both the planned and an unplanned form. And having established the planned cities, during the ancient cities, what actually happens is, they try to establish a military, a political and a religious hierarchy. Because the ancient cities were actually ruled, so they had a hierarchy that was maintained, and that happened in the center of the city. So the hierarchy of the city was mostly found in the center. So if you look into the plan of the city, here in the center of the city, it is very planned. And as the city goes away, that is, as it moves away from the center, you find it is very unplanned. So what happens is, usually in ancient cities, the ancient cities were like, you have a religious hierarchy, there is a political hierarchy, and there is also a spiritual hierarchy. Now what happens is, in ancient cities, they are actually ruled by the kings. So they wanted to establish a hierarchy. So they used to actually occupy the center of the city, and they used to plan the city properly by having certain city centers or such as cathedrals. So these were actually in the center of the city, and the center of the city had a very coarse grained urban fabric. And then after, as the people started to migrate from other places to the city, they had to occupy the other parts, they had to actually occupy the peripheral parts of the center of the city. And like that, as they started to occupy, it was it happened on a day-to-day basis. As the place needed to grow, people started migrating and they started occupying. So always the periphery of the city is very fine grained, that is, it is an organic growth. So basically in the ancient cities, if you just come back, in the ancient cities, the city center was actually ruled by the rulers, and they had very planned city, and as the other people started to migrate to the city, they occupied the other parts of the city, the periphery parts of the city, and it grew organically in the form of a fine grain. So in ancient cities you can find both a planned as well as the well planned city form. This is also the same map. If you, I'll just zoom in once again. So again over here also, as the time grew on, the people, the civilians, they started to occupy the outer periphery parts, and as they occupied the periphery parts, again it just grew on randomly. So the center of the city seems to be very authentic and very planned when compared to the periphery of the city. Then during the going to medieval cities, that is from 580 to 1500 AD, we have taken an example of London. And in London also, very similar to what has happened during the Roman cities, like all the ancient cities, this city also had a very organic map. It also just grew randomly, but here and here you can see that the center of the city is actually laid, is very prominent, it is very planned, just similar to the ancient cities like Mesopotamia. It is very planned over here, and even this center of the city also is very planned, but eventually the city has grown randomly, very organically. So in ancient cities what happened is, during 500 AD and during 1500 ADs, what they wanted to establish is the center of the city, which was during the rules time, was very, they had to have some sort of cathedrals in the city to actually put up their image in the city. So that spaces were mostly allocated for public squares, for city centers, for mosques, for temples and for churches, which actually created an identity for the city. So that was in a very planned form, and as it grew away, it became very chaotic, or it became very organic. So the same thing is found even in the medieval cities also. And also you can find it is very narrow, the streets over here is very narrow. If you see, you can hardly find very narrow frontages, and they are very small blocks, and here also you can find certain open spaces. These open spaces could also be a geographical area, or it could have been left for urban or recreational purposes. So moving on to another city, which is a modern city in Paris. The Paris is also a very planned city. If you see, actually in the planned city you have proper straight roads, very rectangular, very planned, and this all became during the, when actually planning came up as a field. When planning started to come up as a field, many people looked into the infrastructure purposes, and they started to create and they planned the city. And so because of infrastructural uses, they actually made it into a very systematic manner of laying up long streets and very symmetrical arrangement of the buildings. So this is seen in Paris, and in Los Angeles also we can find it is very chaotic because of the Fordism ideologies, where car became to be the main means of transportation. So these are different types of cities and how the urban fabric has changed over a period of time. So in this session till now we have looked at what is urban fabric, what are the typologies of urban fabric, and how the urban fabric has changed over a different period of time in different cities. Now the next session we will look into how we actually analyze urban fabric, how do we interpret urban fabric, how do we read the urban fabric, and how do we understand urban fabric. Thank you.